Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Leadership Void Podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince to bring you the best in our veteran, military spouse, and first responder community. And Vince will introduce today's guest.
Thanks, Enrique. Yeah, I can't wait to chop it up with Fred Soule. Guess what? He's a founder and owner and operator of Sergeant SUDS Soap, all the way from New York City metropolitan area. Before we talk about what he's doing with the bubbles, let's talk first about Fred. Fred, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey guys, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited. So I am a former SWCC, Navy, and now I'm making soap. That's pretty much it. You know, I live on the New Jersey side of New York City, close to the area. You know, I make my recipes in my garage and get them out to you guys, the best soap.
I love that. I tell you that, when we're talking about bringing our guest on, it's just an amazing thing. And he's just telling us about him. He says, SWCC. I spent some time with the SWCC down in the Mississippi swamp. So we're going to have to talk about that.
But, Special Boat Team 22.
Yep, 22. But as we develop this thing, tell us about Sergeant Sosa, because that's a peculiar thing to go to from the SWCC community.
Yeah, I get that a lot. You know, I think I realized that I tell this story on my first deployment. I was out in the CRE, crisis response element out there in, the main base is in UAE. But it's hot out there. You're operating a lot. You know, the job is, we all heard the term dirty boat guy. So you're in the engines, you know, you're shooting big guns, hundreds of thousands of rounds at a time. So you're getting that all over you. Then you gotta stay fit, right? Everyone's judging you on the workouts and things like that. So I found myself on deployment and I was kind of like breaking out. I had dry skin. I had something going on with my skin. I was using just a body wash that I think somebody probably sent out there in a care package that we found in like our little common area, right? A bar of soap. So I decide, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down to the local shop when we get out on the town and I'm going to buy some soap. And I forget the name of the store out there in UAE, but I went to the shop. I'm looking in the men's aisle. I can't find anything. I finally find like a natural bar soap, like limited ingredients, kind of what I'm doing now with Sergeant SUDS. And it's in the ladies aisle and it's like a pomegranate passion fruit. And I'm like, damn it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy this. It's like the best quality one, but I'm like, I don't want to be smelling like passion fruit around the boys, you know, crushing weights or something. I'm like, so it's not optimal, but anyway, I tried the soap. I love it. And that kind of got me inspired on Sergeant SUDS soap. And the other side of it, you know, when you leave the military, I've had buddies, you know, get weird cancers or illnesses. We see it a lot. There's a foundation called the Hunter 7 Foundation. They have some super interesting numbers on, you know, guys going on deployment, coming back, and they get these weird illnesses or exposures. I think the statistics, like you can go on their website and see these statistics. They're crazy. Out of like 1.2 million guys deployed to Iraq or something, like so many of them come back with these weird cancers. And I think there was a Marine platoon where it was like 5 out of 6 guys got like leukemia or something like that, right? So when I got out of the service, I did 3 deployments. The one thing that's always stuck with me is kind of the fitness, right? So I work out hard. I watch my diet. The missing link was kind of like the things that we put on our skin. So right now it's like a lot of people don't know, you know, what they're putting on their bodies, right? We just go down to the store, we buy a thing of Ivory soap. When you get into the science of it, you see all these endocrine disruptors, you see all these big things. I know in the news, everyone's talking about testosterone levels in men right now are down, and we're wondering why. And I'm like, I don't think soap is like, to me, soap is just like another tool. The things that I put on my body, I make myself or I buy. They're quality ingredients, but it's a part of the picture. It might not be the biggest part, but your skin's a huge organ, right? So it's like, to me, my wellness routine is like, you know, I use good stuff that I make or I buy that I know comes from a trusted thing. And I think we're going to learn more about that in the future. But then it's diet, nutrition. There's a lot of things we're exposing ourselves to. And if I could limit that impact like a little bit with my company, that's kind of where I'm at.
I love this origin story. And you talk an operative word that we dealt with downrange, hygiene and keeping your socks dry, right? So
Oh,
those
100%.
that definitely so important. And the pain point that you experience now, the world gets to benefit from because of Sergeant Sud's soap. So I appreciate everything you did and everything you're doing. So for the folks on our call, listening in, what's a good entrepreneurship challenge or lessons learned you like to share based on you starting your own company?
So I think there was one thing that I did, and I think a lot of us do, especially coming from the military. It's like, working with a small team, relying on people. When you're taking the plunge into entrepreneurship or starting something up, we have a tendency to I think it's like there's two parts to it though. It's like a fail safe where we go to our team or those people that we trust and we're like, hey man, I have this great idea. Like, can you help me out with it? I think you'd be great doing this. And you never really get off the ground because you're pushing things out to other people. When I finally launched Sergeant Suds, I just did it. I took the plunge and I did it myself and I knocked it out, right? Instead of putting it on other people, never taking the plunge and never, I guess it's like a failure fear too. I don't know where it comes from, but that was like the biggest thing. Get out there, try it. If you have an idea, don't wait on anyone. It's like selection. It's like going through boot camp. Only you can do it. And once you do it, you're going to realize how easy it is.
Yeah, I love that because there's in entrepreneurship we have a lot of obstacles, mainly in here, in the head, when they talk about launching. But you have to just do it ugly, right? You got to go out there and just do it,
100%.
and see what your vision looks like in reality, and that's when you see the folks come and the people buying. So I'm excited about not only your product but your mission, but what's on the horizon. So what brings me to my question of what is on the horizon for Sergeant Sud Soaps?
So I think, I kind of mentioned like leaning on people in the team. Uh, it's interesting once you get into it, the team kind of comes and shows up. So I have some potential partnerships on the horizon to grow the company. If any listeners have connections at the Navy exchanges, these exchanges on base, that's a goal of mine. Just growing, and I think every business grows at its own pace. And I've been growing Sergeant Suds organically, um, through some different ways, but it is growing at its own pace. And I'm in no rush to get huge, but I'm definitely trying to expand in the exchanges, get Amazon set up. So that's kind of on the horizon for us. And then also just getting into the veteran community. That's kind of been the goal with this whole thing. I think my initial vision was being like the Black Rifle Coffee of men's hygiene, right? And just creating an environment for veterans to come in, work together, do the job they want to do after service in an organization that they want to be a part of.
Certainly a great niche and a great need right there, Fred. We appreciate all you're doing and putting it out there in the universe. You will be in Amazon and the exchanges very soon. So look forward
Nice.
to purchasing mine off the shelf one of these days.
Yeah.
Now, Fred, let's transition. Talk about leadership a little bit here. What do you do, Fred, to sharpen your skill set that aids you to thrive in your professional life?
I think for me, the big thing is I keep it simple, right? I've always kept it simple. I kind of did that during my time in the Navy. It's like focus on the big things, right? Try not to get worked up in the small details. I kind of prioritize my focus, you know, on three things start out. So family comes first. What are my family responsibilities for the day? Right after that, it's fitness. I always got to hit a workout. Normally it's at 5, 6 a.m., right? When nobody could bother me. And then after that, it's work. So when I'm working, I'm focusing on work and I've already knocked out my main other essential responsibilities. Um, and that's kind of it. And then 7 p.m. rolls around, get the kid tucked in bed, everyone's fed. My chores are done. I'll go work out again, maybe do some, I've been doing jujitsu recently. That's great. I mean, in general, just sharpening everything, right? It's like the cool thing with jiu-jitsu, I actually heard on a podcast the other day, is like, we need that off time. I don't really get that off time in the gym, because even when I'm in the gym at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., I'm thinking of other things, you know? So it's like my brain is still turned on and I'm lifting, but I do sometimes think about work or family or whatever. But when you're in jiu-jitsu and you got a 200-pound dude choking you out, it's like all you could think about is jiu-jitsu. So it gives your brain that kind of like that rest it needs. Like, if you want to be good, this is what you have to focus on, the guy that's about to kill you right now. So that's been super helpful. Recommend that to everybody.
Well, that's a sure way of focusing your mind when you have a
Little mental
200-pound guy
vacation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you've identified an area where you can actually get that. A lot of people don't do that, especially in entrepreneurship. You need an outlet. You need to go and create a space for you where you can decompress and clearly think about solutions later on. Hopefully, it's not during a chokehold.
Yeah.
But
If I'm not in the right mindset, I can't perform. So it's like I'm always trying to get in that mindset, and that's normally like, you know, my main priorities, like I said, fit, you know, and then get that workout in. When I don't, I've like, it's just my brain's not there and I'm not performing to my best. But
hey, know thyself, and it seems like you do. And I encourage everybody to find that place where you can actually know your limitations, know where you can grow in, and those environments where you can. Now, growing up in the Navy, getting in the SWCC community, I know it well. I was fortunate to be around those guys for quite a while. What advice did you receive that you would like to pass to an emerging leader today that you received then?
I thought about this one. I was like bouncing around some different advices. One piece of advice kind of rang in my head, but it wasn't really relevant to the question. But I'll never forget this Master Chief telling our class, like before we were about to get beat in SWCC school. He's like, if you're going to be dumb, you better be hard. And that's kind of the choice, right? But I don't know, that applies to entrepreneurship. It's like, look, what that kind of meant to me in the moment was like, yeah, everyone's going to make mistakes. You just got to keep persisting and kind of pushing past them. Entrepreneurship comes with a ton of challenges, right? But as soon as you let it take you down, you're going to go down. But if you just keep pushing on, you're going to be fine, right? I saw something, a quote. I wish I remembered who said it, but they're like, success in entrepreneurship is standing on top of a pile of failures instead of getting buried by them, right? And that's it. And that goes to the same mindset of like starting it, like needing all these things to get started. I need my friend, I need a teammate, I need somebody to support me. It's like just get out there, push through. Barriers are always going to come up. I think I had one that was like super annoying, was like resetting my EIN. I was trying to get my business bank account set up, and I kept sending them my paperwork, but I changed my LLC name, and they just kept coming back at me like, hey, we can't do it. I actually tried to, like, I don't know if I could admit this on a podcast. I like took my document and I just changed the LLC name for the EIN, like on PowerPoint or something. So I forged this document, tried to submit it to the bank. They have some kind of system that saw it was forged. And then I went to the website, and it was like literally took me 2 seconds to reset it, right? And I just persisted. Sometimes I find myself looking at things and I feel like I'm not being productive. And then they click, right? Goes back to that, like, kind of the time in. If you're investing time in something and you invest the time, you're gonna move forward, you know, whether you feel like it or not. It's just one day, the week's gonna pass, the month's gonna pass, the year's gonna pass, and you're gonna find yourself on the other end of it as long as you keep doing it. So
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the quote you mentioned, which I'm definitely going to find who said this, you know, success is standing on a pile of failures versus being buried by them. That's totally pushing through. We all have to have those failures to succeed in entrepreneurship and in life and every one of our journeys, relationship, that whole 9 yards. So great advice you're giving emerging leaders today. Now, Fred, let's talk about a memorable aha moment, leadership aha moment you've had in the Navy or in your journey that you'd like to share with our audience today.
Yeah, it goes back. I think a resounding theme that you're going to see with me as I answer these questions is like the kind of keep it simple thing. Like, you know, in my second detachment, my second deployment, I took kind of that like leadership boat crew leader role, whatever you want to call it, and I was put kind of in charge of some peers and some teammates that I'd gone through SWCC school with, and you know, and I did my last deployment with the close buddies, and I found myself, first of all, you're working with a bunch of type A personalities, right? I found myself like butting heads, and I think I also found the true role of a leader and the example that leaders have shown me that are good leaders. It was kind of that, you know, keep it simple. Your team, like, empower your guys. Like when I was telling guys what to do, it wouldn't work, right? They're like, why are you telling me what to do? We were just, you know, I saw you naked at SWCC school or something, or you did this dumb thing last deployment, right? Why are you telling me what to do? But it comes down, it's like, empower them. They know what to do. And even when people make mistakes, it's not the end of the world, right? Once I got that memo, I was like, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to heavily rely on you because I know the person that you are, that we've been, you know, through this and that together. So I'm going to rely on you, and these are the things that I need to get done or whatever it is. But it's definitely that empowerment thing. And then also when you're a leader, the best leaders I've ever had were those insulators, right? There's like two worlds in entrepreneurship, business. You know, you have the outside world with your family, the stressors that come along with that. In the military, you have the top leadership, you know, your CO or your XO or your master chief or training. The best leaders that I had were the guys that could separate like their interactions with their team from their interactions with, you know, their life, right? You have a bad day at home and then you bring it to your team at work, like, and you take it out on your subordinates. It never goes well. But those guys who insulate, can separate, they're always the best leaders, I feel like. So that's something I try and apply. And I
Absolutely.
do the reverse. I'd say the inverse with my family or like my son. You know, it's like I have a bad day at work. I'm or in the gym or in jujitsu, which like every day is a bad day there because I'm always getting whooped on. But you know, I try and insulate, you know, separate it from my interactions with them.
Well, that definitely helps when you're talking about the enacting and actually fulfilling a mission or a task that you may have, to be the ability to separate those two and focus on the task at hand. Now, you mentioned a dynamic in leadership that usually causes challenge, which is, hey, a leader saying, go do this or help me do this, right? It's a two different things
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about leadership and how you execute leadership. But what are certain strategies that you use with you as a solopreneur and now building a team to deal with times of change and challenges?
I think the big thing is communication. You know, we talk about like mission values in the military. If you have like a basis, like, hey, these are our core goals. This is kind of how we're going to strategize. This is how we're going to react to certain situations based on our goals. I think that helps out. Communication is a big part, you know. Um, Something we don't see. I feel like something I've noticed in the kind of in the corporate world is like that whole safety thing in your role. Like if people trust you as a leader, they're going to perform better. But if they don't trust you, you know, there's going to be issues. I feel like I've worked for some big companies, and I feel like you always hear that we care about our people and you know, this and that, and then you see these massive layoffs or whatever, and it's like, dude, really, at the end of the day, when you gave that speech about caring about your team, we could tell it was a lie. And then we see through it when these situations happen. So I think just being sincere, you know, communicating with your team. And also, it's like that leaders eat last quote, right? It's like if you take care of your people, they're going to take care of you. And there's a lot of aspects to that, but at a minimum, that's definitely how I try and approach it.
Well, definitely doing some great things there, Fred, and definitely empowering your team, empowering the group that you're working with or working for is important. Listening, communicating, great tips, great advice. We love everything you're doing. And for the folks listening in, what do they do, or how do they go about contacting you or Sergeant SUDS Soap?
So you could go to the website, Sergeant SGT SUDS SUDS Soap SOAP.com. You can find us on Instagram, Sergeant SUDS, spelled just like the website. We're also on LinkedIn. I think we have a TikTok, not too active on there. And we have a Facebook. Yeah, you can reach out to us any of those channels, or contact us through the website.
Outstanding. Now, folks, we're going to have that as part of the show notes and video for you to be able to get a hold of this great company addressing issues that are real. Folks, there's a lot of folks dealing with skincare problems, and this may be your solution. So I hope that you reach out to them. If you want to reach out to the Leadership Void podcast, the Leadership Void at gmail.com is where you'll send that correspondence. And you would like Vince and I to cover a specific topic of leadership or host a particular guest, that's where you'll send that request, and we'll look at it and curate it and make a decision on that.
Absolutely. And today was all about Fred and Sergeant SUDS Soap, but we are also grateful for our sponsors, Triple Nickel, FAVOB, and VEI. And today, Fred, we just graciously thank you for being on our show and wish you the best in your endeavors in the future, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really great time. Loved speaking with you. Hope we could do it again soon, honestly.